He used AI tools to generate hundreds, if not thousands, of songs, completely fake artists, and then he uploaded them to streaming platforms. And then here's the key. He then used bot farms to basically fake accounts to have them stream the music 24/7. Hey everybody, welcome back to What's Mine is Yours, and we have another solo episode again, and we have a lot to cover. However, I'm sure, like the last few and other times we have guests on the show, we are going to talk a lot about the AI of it all. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're all kind of sick about talking about AI, but at the end of the day, this is kind of what is happening in the industry the most. And so I've now come to the conclusion that whenever I talk about AI now, I'm not expecting everybody to get all riled up and be upset about it themselves. I'm kind of at the conclusion now where people just simply don't care unless you are in the industry. So I'm going to now focus more when I talk about this is more just about education and that you know what's going on versus you having to think you have to do anything about it. Because really what we're learning now is that I don't think there's a lot that the average person can do about it. Not to mention, I don't think the average person cares what's happening with it unless you are in the industry. So let's just say we're going to talk about AI and impersonating bigger artists. That's happening a lot more now. We are going to talk about the first ever criminal case that's happening with AI and songs and music, which I think is really interesting. We're going to be talking about the FBI in Nashville coming for unreleased music, which I think also is very interesting, especially if you live here in Nashville, which I do, and I find that to be fascinating. We're going to talk about women that is just dominating in country music right now, and I know we've talked about women a lot on this show, like women versus men, and where the support lies and what the reasonings are behind it. I think I still have an unpopular view about it, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. And we are also going to talk about how radio is slowly disappearing from your car, which is so interesting because I never thought there would come a day where radio wouldn't even be in your car. So without further ado, let's get moving on to the first topic of AI. And this is wild. Sony Music has asked streaming platforms to remove over 135,000 songs that were created using AI platforms that are impersonating real artists. So we're talking artists like Beyonce, Harry Styles, Queen, I believe even Miley Cyrus was mentioned, and I'm sure there's way more than that, but this was just the ones that were mentioned and from what I saw. And they said that's just a small portion, mind you, of songs that are existing on these platforms that are completely impersonating real artists. Just since March 2025 alone, they've removed 60,000 false songs that were impersonating their artists specifically. So mind you, this is just Sony, by the way. This isn't other labels and other big corporations that have artists. So this is just Sony, and they're working with probably hundreds of thousands of songs that they're actively trying to remove from, say, Spotify, Apple Music. So what's actually happening here is people are using AI tools to clone the artist's voice, generate the songs, produce the tracks, and then upload them to these streaming platforms under names that make it seem like it's the artists themselves. And I get it. Like I said in the beginning at the top of the show right now is why do you care? Right? Like it's not affecting you. You're not Beyonce. So why do you care? And most people, and now that I've gotten to talk to people and not people in the industry, by the way, because I know I've made such an uproar about this because I care so passionately about it, but I think it's because I'm in the industry. So when I talk to the average person, they're like, okay, like, so what? If I'm a Beyonce fan and there's a song that goes up and it sounds like Beyonce, maybe I'll stream it and I like it and I move on with my day and that's it. So if it's not affecting their pocketbooks per se and they enjoy a song, what's it to them if it's really Beyonce or not? So what I've come to the conclusion with was over the last few episodes, and when I talk about this with people, I kept basically acting like we the people have to stand up and revolt and not stream these songs. We need to say we demand a change. And at the end of the day, I mean, no one's really going to do that as the average person. They've got bills to pay. They are trying to figure out if they're going to homeschool their kid or not. They're figuring out what they're going to have for dinner or how they're going to put gas in their tank. They just don't simply care. So it's going to be companies and labels like Sony, Warner, Universal that are going to be the ones to have to put a kibosh to this. They're the ones that are going to have to make the change and probably say, like, enough is enough. So it's nice to see that Sony is actually trying to do something about it for their artists. And let's be honest, they're doing it because it's hurting their pocketbooks. If someone is streaming songs that claim they're Harry Styles and Beyonce, and it's not Harry Styles and Beyonce, guess who's not making a dime off of that? Sony. It's not their artist's music, so it's going to hurt them. And they're going to have to be the ones to make the change. As much as I thought we were all going to come together as one and act like this is something that mattered to all of us, the more I talked about it with people, it just didn't matter to people. And I kind of get it now that I look at it from an outside perspective. Why should it matter to the average person? It's just not going to be at the forefront of their priorities to have to take down AI. And I hate the term "it is what it is," but as we know, AI is just progressing faster and faster, and it is what it is. This is going to get easier and easier for this to happen, and it's going to take bigger people than just the listener to do something about it. And the thing that I found interesting is that I guess when it came to people uploading these songs that seemed like they were artists that people love, sometimes it was really obvious that it wasn't the artist, and sometimes it's just slightly misspelled. So it's pretty creative where people really just do think that it is a new song or an unreleased song from their favorite artist. So very sneaky. And all in all, I think we can all agree that that's not great, but like I said, I just think a lot of people just don't care enough to do anything about it. So it's going to have to be these bigger people that do something about it. And fans a lot of the time aren't even realizing it's fake. So very clever, very, very clever. So good on Sony for trying to do something about it. And I'm all support of just pulling all this down. And when I think about Spotify and Apple Music, the reason why I don't think they're as eager to take any of this down is because, I mean, obviously they make a profit off of streams and how often things are listened to because it's on their platform. They're not really hurting in regard to if the music is fake or not. Obviously, if you have maybe a big artist, like I remember back in the day, Taylor Swift had pulled all of her music from Spotify at one point, and that was a way bigger initiative, right, for Spotify to say, well, we want Taylor Swift back on our platform, so what do we have to do to make that work? So I think it's going to take threats from bigger companies like Sony, like Universal, like Warner to say, like, we'll pull our artists from your platforms if you don't regulate this somehow. So we'll see where that leads down the line, but I think that's probably where we're going to lead if it's going to start hurting the pocketbooks of these big corporations and these labels who are going to end up losing money hand over fist if people are just able to recreate any artist they want on AI, put it up there, and then other people are making money off of something that just, at the end of the day, is just not theirs. So leaning more into more AI, which I actually, this story takes it even further, and it was very interesting when I saw it, was there is a guy that just pled guilty to the first ever criminal case involving AI-assisted streaming fraud. Okay, so here's actually what he did. He used AI tools to generate hundreds, if not thousands, of songs, completely fake songs, completely fake artists, and then he uploaded them to streaming platforms. And then here's the key. He then used bot farms to basically fake accounts to have them stream the music 24/7. So honestly, A, for creativity, I think that, wow, the effort that was put into obviously creating all of this fake music and then going and hiring bots to go stream the music. So 24/7, so that it's then creating revenue. So all because the streaming platforms pay per stream. So even if it's just fractions of the cent, he's still collecting real money. And what I thought about was, we've talked about before these fake artists that are obviously not real, they're AI generated, and they were charting before, like they were creating like real revenue. So this person who created this artist is creating real revenue. I think the difference between that and this is, and what makes this one just blatantly illegal, is you're faking and you're paying for the streams. It wasn't even real people streaming these artists. For instance, like the artists we've talked about in previous episodes, is these were real streams by real people who enjoyed this AI artist, and it just naturally became popular by the actual public. This guy was actually just faking the whole thing from start to finish. And like I said, wow, like A for creativity. And you could only imagine if this guy like used that kind of creativity for real things, he could probably be very, very successful. And I think there's a level of desperation. I know for a fact when I first moved to Nashville, I had friends, I'm obviously not going to name who, that would hire, I think, companies that I do believe fake streams or boost it to make it seem more popular than not, so that it could actually get more eyes on you. I know there are companies that fake, like we all know on social media, fake numbers of how many people follow them and in the engagement, and a lot of it are bots. So I would love to see what more comes of something like this, if it's going to feed into companies like that do stuff for social media and fake engagement that way. So if this is illegal, then it should be illegal across the board for multiple things, not just music in itself. But yeah, essentially this guy just faked an entire music career and entirely by AI and bots, and then got paid like it was real. So I think I just think the whole thing is pretty funny, but pretty serious if you're in the industry. Again, if you're just the average person sitting at home, you're like, what's this to me? But I think why you need to look at this is that I don't think versions of AI are just coming from the entertainment industry. I think it's coming for your job too. So while you can sit back and ha that it's just entertainment, that's all well and good until it's your job as well. So I think the more you know and the better educated you are on how often this is happening and how people are making real money off of faking complete things, the better you're off you are in that sense. And the other thing that I thought about this was, there's no way that he's the only one doing this. There has to be so many others that this is happening. This is just the first guy that's been caught. So if you can imagine, I think I read in the article that it said that he made somewhere like upwards of $8 million. That's not nothing. That's a lot of money. And if you think about that, he can't be the only one that's done this and is making real hardcore cash off of just a complete fake everything. So again, like I said, I guess A for creativity, but really bad. I don't suggest doing this. I suggest taking your efforts and putting them elsewhere. But it is really interesting to see that we're finally starting to see it become criminally charged. So I'm going to keep an eye on it because I want to see what more is discovered, because like I said, he can't be the only one. So next, we have something that hits a little bit closer to home in Nashville, which I find fascinating as well, is the FBI in Nashville have been putting out warnings about cybercrime targeting the music industry, specifically unreleased music. And when I read that headline and I thought, okay, LimeWire, if I don't know if that dates myself completely, but LimeWire and Napster and all of those things existed obviously years and years ago, where I believe people also were able to download unreleased music. I mean, don't arrest me now. I was like 10 years old, and I remember having LimeWire, and I remember being able to get like a Backstreet Boys CD like way before it was released, and there was a whole thing about it then. And again, don't come for me, come for the person who actually took the music. But I know this has been going on for a really long time, so this isn't new. But it's interesting now to see it public that the FBI is involved with it now. And what's happening is hackers are hacking into email accounts, cloud storage, studio files. I believe I even saw that we were dealing with maybe a few sound engineers in studios kind of emailing themselves off the music that's being done in the studio and then leaking it at that point, which absolutely is a crime. You should not do that whatsoever. And what people are doing is they're either leaking the music early, they're holding it kind of for ransom or for blackmail, or they're selling it completely privately. And now with back to AI, it gets even worse, because now with AI, what you can do with unreleased music is you can recreate the vocals, you can finish unfinished songs and then release it, or you can just manipulate the content entirely. And again, why I ask you to care and why anybody should care is what I said earlier, is that just because this is just the entertainment world right now, I see this going far beyond the entertainment industry. So whatever industry you're in, this could happen to you too, whether you're photographers, graphic designers. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you are, not even just in the creative world. I think things can be leaked about what you do for a job or what you do, and it can be absolutely recreated, stolen, released, and all of those things. So while right now, what's at the forefront and what is the most damaging right now is the entertainment industry, I think it's coming for you too. And obviously there's somebody behind it all. There is that thief behind the AI and behind it all that's using it to their benefit, and they're just stealing product and they're releasing it as if it's theirs, which is completely wrong. I think we can all agree to that. And I make you sit back and question, and whether you're in this industry or not, imagine spending a year or more working on something that you're very passionate about, and then it just gets leaked before you ever get the opportunity to release it, after you've spent money on marketing, a whole rollout, a plan of everything, and then it just gets released. I think that you, maybe as a listener, you might think it's fun that you got something early, or you think you have something, but it's really damaging to the people that are closest to it and where it hits home, and that's your favorite artist or whoever it is. And that's disheartening. I mean, you don't think it's affecting you, but like I said, I think that look at it now and you'll realize that it could be you next, and that's just somewhere where you don't want to be. But now on to something way more exciting. I find this to be very exciting. I think we're seeing it way more on streaming services, but Warner Music Group and Netflix have created a partnership where they're about to create documentaries and films about your favorite artists. And I think this is almost like the new version of like the E! True Hollywood Story. If you remember, like we had a lot of this when we were growing up, where there was a bunch of like behind the curtains, behind the scenes of someone's real life or behind the show. And I think we see it now. Like I know Netflix just released, I believe, something with Lainey Wilson, which is about like her life and her rise to stardom. I know on Disney Plus, we saw the behind the scenes of the Eras Tour, which people want that feeling of connection with their favorite artists. They want the behind the curtain. They want to see what's happening, what it took, the more intimate moments. And where I think people believe they had that say on Instagram, and I do believe very in the beginning of social media, you followed your favorite people and you were like, wow, I really feel like I'm getting to know them on a more intimate level. And now as social media has progressed, I feel like we have far more just curated content. So I think that intimacy that you felt once with people and you felt like you were getting to know them more has turned further away from that into just curated content. So I think this is another way now for people to, one, create revenue, right? If you're having Warner and Netflix team up, obviously there's a lot of money to be made, but it's a way to now get back to the audience and feel like you're giving them something that they haven't seen before, and it makes them feel more connected to people more than ever. Now, don't get me wrong, with the Eras Tour docuseries, with I'm sure the Lainey Wilson and anything else you see on television, don't be fooled. It's still curated content. It's what they're willing to show you. But there is just an element of more of like, I feel like I'm there with them. And I believe that's what social media's intention was, back in the day when it was first rolling out, where you were like, they got on stories and they were talking to you and you felt so much more connected to your favorite people. And I think slowly but surely we've seen that dissipate a bit more, and it's just that curated content that people don't really like as much. So the more we can kind of make you feel like you're there with them and it's not as rehearsed and it's not as curated, then the better. So I think this is really exciting because I think what you're going to see now, it's going to be about the story. It's going to be about the personality behind the music, and it's going to be about the behind the scenes, which I believe fans crave more than ever. We crave that feeling of knowing somebody. There is something, especially in country music, which I think is really exciting. Country music more than ever, I think, is going to be able to dominate this because it is such a human storytelling genre that I think this is going to really do something absolutely great for the artists themselves, because I don't think anymore that it's just about the music. And it's funny because I remember complaining about this when I was more of an artist, and I had said, I feel like I'm having to just create content the whole time. Like, what happened to just it being about the music? It's not anymore. It's not just about the music. It's about everything behind it as well. And this is going to help artists so much more show a more personal side, especially artists that have a hard time showing more of their personal side on social media. I know I was one that didn't like to talk to my phone all day. So these kind of partnerships and putting it out on a bigger scale, I think are going to just create so much more of a relationship with their fans and the artists and the music together. So I'm really excited to see what ends up coming out first with Netflix and Warner. I'm really excited about it. Now moving on to something that's really positive, and that's women in country music. And we've talked about it a lot, and almost to an exhaustion, kind of about like AI. But now I really feel like women are absolutely back to leading the conversation right now in country music. Now, again, I'm the one with the unpopular opinion. I've never thought this was a gender issue. I've always thought this was a music issue. And what I think this says to me, which is really exciting, is that the music coming out from women is better than ever. And it's so good that it's taking the lead in everything. So we're seeing, obviously, Ella Langley, Megan Moroney, Lainey Wilson, Miranda Lambert's back in the fold, bigger than ever right now. And you see this because I think the music is relating to people more than ever. They are listening to the audience and they're putting out such quality music that it can't be ignored. And that's what I've wanted from women in country music to be doing for a long time. And mind you, what's good and what's not good is totally subjective, but it's obviously hitting closer to home than it ever has in the last probably 15 years, I would say. Definitely 10. I'll say definitely 10. And that's really exciting that finally women in country music aren't just there because they're women and because people feel like they had to give them a spot because, women are upset again that they're not at the forefront of it all. I think it's the music that's speaking. And that's what I've wanted all along, is it the music to get better. And I genuinely think that's what's happening. And obviously for years we've talked about how underrepresented women have been, right? So less radio play, less label support, fewer opportunities. But again, I say that it was been a music choice, not the gender issue. And again, that's my opinion. Don't shoot my opinion. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not trying to say that. I'm sure there have been circumstances where it's because people have wanted to play men over women, but I think right now, and what it feels like, is a shift is actually happening, and for the right reasons. I don't think that it's just because they're women they're being put there. I genuinely think it's because women have been choosing to write and release better music, and I hope that it's here to stay. I was raised in a time where we had Faith Hill, Jody Messina, Sarah Evans, Trisha Yearwood, Leanne Rimes, all of that. And that was like such a moment. Shania Twain, I mean, all of that. And I kind of feel like we're entering into an era right now where we are back at that again. And I feel extremely pumped for it. So I know that a huge reason why people are saying this is happening is that it's streaming over radio. And mind you, I do think there is some truth to this. And let me explain what they mean by streaming over radio. People have a choice with what they listen to as streaming versus on radio. You turn on the radio and you get what you get. You get what the radio programmer puts on, and that's what's there, and that's what you have to listen to. And that's for decades and decades. That's what we had. It's what they told us to listen to. And now with streaming platforms, You get the choice. What do you type in and what do you choose to listen to? And it seems that women are streaming better right now than men in certain regards. And it's because people are saying, well, now I finally have a choice on what it is. And maybe there is some truth to that. But I'm going to keep saying it. I think it's because women are just releasing better music now. So I think the bigger question is going to end up being, is this just a moment? Or is this real shift going to last? And I think with the names that we have out there right now that are releasing such good music, I think it's going to last. Now, fingers crossed. I mean, I love men in country music too, but it's been really fun to see like ladies kicking down the doors and kicking butt. And they're leading in ACM nominations right now over men. And that is just a huge deal because we haven't seen it in a long time. So go girls, I'm all for it. And I can't wait to see a bunch of them win the awards, not just be leading in the nominations. Next, what I want to talk about, which I can't even believe we have to talk about it, to be honest, but we're leading into festival season, concert season, summer concert series. And so we got to talk about concert etiquette, which is bizarre that we're having to talk about this. But I know over the last, was it a month ago, maybe a little over, Riley Green, a phone got thrown at him and he actually had to go to the hospital and get stitches. That's crazy, you guys. That's absolutely crazy. Now, whether it was a fan I know people like to have their phones taken by the artist so that they can film them with the audience or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You weren't raised we're not animals. We're humans. Like, that's crazy that this kind of behavior. And not to mention, you put alcohol in the mix, you get everything else going on, and people are like throwing objects at artists. I don't even care if it's as light as a pen or something that you don't think is going to hurt somebody. You don't take the risk. You don't throw anything. I don't know why this even has to be said, but you shouldn't throw any objects at somebody on a stage. You just shouldn't. And to now see somebody full-blown bleeding and having to get stitches, so far I think that's the worst I've seen it. I think more so you see people get startled by something and like a water bottle or along those lines, but it's just, it doesn't hurt them, but it startles them. It doesn't matter if it doesn't hurt them or not. We don't throw things at people. I don't care how excited you get. I don't care if you're desperate because you finally got in the front row and this is your one and only shot to, no pun intended, to get them to take your phone or something. You just don't do it. Now, here's the other part of concert etiquette that's coming up a lot, which I actually don't agree with. And I think it's silly that this is even getting talked about, to be honest, because we live in a day and age where our phones are going to be out. You're going to be filming the concerts. You're going to be putting it up on social media. It's all about getting the content now these days. Now, mind you, I'm someone who likes to take in an experience. I hate to have my phone out filming things or talking with people. I like to be in a moment, but not everybody likes to be. And I find that it's actually a dying experience that you like to be in the experience. And artists now, and I know a few years ago, Miranda Lambert was written up for this. I think it was at a Vegas show where a girl had her phone out. Now correct me if I'm wrong. She took a picture or she was filming it. Miranda, in the middle of the show, asked her to put her phone away and to live in the moment, something of that nature. I'm not getting that word for word correctly. But I know that I don't think it landed well on Miranda in that circumstance. And I know there were people who were for her, of course, but from what I saw, the overwhelming majority was trying to support the fan, being like, she paid there to be there to see you. She was excited. She wanted to take a picture. She wanted to film a song, whatever the case is. But I know that artists are irritated with fans that are talking through shows, filming the entire show, or not really just being present. Okay, and here's the thing. We live on our phones, and this is just not changing. This is another is what it is moment. So if you're like in an arena, by the way, you have no control over this. I really do. Now, the only time I've seen control over this is I went to a Kevin Hart comedy show years and years ago, and I think it was being filmed for a special. So they gave everybody one of those little baggies, and we put our phone into it, and it was highly regulated. I mean, I saw someone get kicked out, and this was in an arena. So yes, artists can choose to go this direction. I'm sure that comes with a cost to rent all those bags and hire extra security, which I'm not sure artists are ready to do. But you're also dealing with fans that might not go to your show if they feel like they can't have their phone out. I think that there's going to be a win-lose situation here. Now, I fully understand if you're in a more intimate auditorium. Okay, so I'm going to pull one from example of I've been to. I've seen Celine Dion many times at the Caesars Coliseum, and she had a strict no phone policy because it's a very intimate setting. So yeah, you're all seated, you're not standing, you're not swishing a drink around, you're not singing to the songs, you're kind of just there to watch a show. So I totally get in certain circumstances where artists may have rules, and those fans should abide by those rules. But I just don't see you coming to Nissan Stadium here in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're whoever you are, and you are just like, I don't want you having your phone out, I don't want you filming, and I don't want you talking. You're never going to get it. And I think you might find fans choose not to go to your shows if that's the case. Or you can not sell as many tickets and you can choose to perform at the Ryman here instead. And then you can maybe choose to have those rules. I just think when it comes to concert etiquette, it depends on one, where you're performing, and no, basically it's just where you're performing and the intimacy of the show. I think that that's what's going to matter the most. Now, obviously, when we go back to throwing the items, we don't throw items. There's just we don't throw things. And there's bottom line of that. But artists, if you are really caring that much about, if someone cares that much to come see you and they want to film a song of you singing, I don't know why we're arguing about this that much. I think it's just silly. It's not that big of a deal unless you're at an intimate setting and that's the case. Then okay, choose to have the intimate setting and don't sell as many tickets, and then you can put down as many rules as you want to have in place. But that's kind of where I feel about that. Okay, so now on to what I think is very interesting, and it's about new cars that are coming out with less radio access being put into new cars as they're being built. I mean, I'm not shocked by this, but at the same time, now I'm starting to think, okay, if I'm not listening to the radio in the car, I'm probably never listening to the radio ever again. This isn't like the late 90s, early 2000s where I had my little boombox in my bedroom and I was listening to the radio and then calling on the phone and requesting in a song, which I don't even think that's a thing anymore anyway. If I'm listening to the radio, it's because I'm in a car. Like, full stop, that's the only reason why I'm listening to the radio now. So this is a really big shift, and I don't think a lot of people are actually talking about it, that we're slowly but surely removing physical radios from new models of cars. And they're replacing them with obviously like screens, and they're prioritizing, like I've seen in cars with touch screens, the apps, right, with Spotify, with Apple Music. So what does that say for the current state of radio? Now, again, I think a lot of people don't care what happens to radio. You're the average person and you're saying, don't care. Don't care. And I fully understand that. I think this now goes back to people who are in the industry. And if you work for radio, like where do thousands upon thousands of jobs go? Where does this evolve to? Does this turn more into bigger corporations like Spotify when are hiring people in radio to maybe host different shows that are on Spotify and Apple Music? I know lots of people now host their own like countdown shows on these platforms. So maybe this is just completely what it's turning into. But I look at events like here in Nashville, we host something here every year called CRS, and it's Country Radio Seminar, where we recognize people in the radio space. And I don't know. I mean, I think about it. Like, I ask you, listeners, if you listen to the radio at all, where are you listening to the radio? And I can almost bank on it that your answer is going to be in the car. So if we fast forward 20 years and every single new car doesn't have access to the radio in it, then I would imagine radio just goes bye-bye completely. And I think we're all expecting that anyway. We really, really are. I don't think this is like newsflash, this is happening. I just think that we all should just get used to it. And hopefully people who are in this business of radio have a plan B, because I think that's where we're headed, is no more radio. And it's kind of sad as you think about artists, and I know as me as an artist, I always imagine like what that would feel like if someone says like, I remember when my song was on the radio, what a big deal that was to hear it. I mean, it's also very exciting, don't get me wrong, to see a song put on a playlist on a streaming service. But there's just something about turning on the radio and hearing your song. And maybe that won't matter to artists 10, 15 years from now because it's so relevant to them that they don't even really know what the radio is. They just don't care. But there's something about it right now, still today, where like that is a big deal to artists to hear themselves on the radio or to see that they've had a number one on radio. It still means something to them personally. I'm not sure it matters in the bigger scheme of things in the industry, or if it means something for numbers to labels. I'm not sure if it does or if it's just something that looks really good on a resume. But it's still very special, and so it's very sad. So more importantly, me talking about this necessarily isn't like it's groundbreaking and it changes anything wholeheartedly for most people. It's just something that is like, oh, it's a sad goodbye to a lot of what a lot of us remember as our childhood and things that we thought were really special. And I remember sitting in my room listening to music and calling radio stations and asking for songs to be played. And the fact that, my kids one day won't ever get that opportunity. Instead, everything will just be streaming services. Yes, we just got to keep going with the flow of things, but it is sad to think about. And we'll just see how artists mainly get discovered nowadays. I think it's going to be not the radio, and I don't think they're getting discovered through the radio anyways, but there's still something to be said about your song being on the radio right now, and it's not going to be like that for much longer. So I guess take it while you got it, and hopefully those in the radio business strap in and hold on for dear life until they got to figure out, I guess, the next thing, because cars in the next I give it 10 years, aren't going to have radio anymore unless you have an older car, an older model car. So I guess that's just where it's headed. To be fair, I don't listen to radio either. So that's that. Okay, lastly, and the last thing I want to talk about today, which is I think arguably the most important thing to talk about. It might not be the most exciting. It might not be the most riveting. But to me, it is definitely the most important. And it's that Music Cares has partnered with the Jed Foundation to expand mental health resources for people in the music industry. And I don't think people really realize that the reality is that for artists and for people in the music business, touring is exhausting, the pressure is constant, lifestyle is not arguably, unpredictable. So if you can only imagine, it's just not talked about enough, the mental health kind of struggles that people do go through in this business. It's lonely. And I think we can all say, without naming names, some of our favorite artists, while we can't judge per se or guesstimate what they're actually going through, I think we can see a lot of our favorite artists that have struggled mentally and how sad it actually is. And again, it doesn't maybe affect your day-to-day life, but this is stuff that is affecting either the music you listen to, right? And music is healing, right? We turn to music when we're struggling mentally as a listener. And if you think about your favorite people, and again, I'm not going to sit here and name names because I can't even definitively say if those people were actually struggling mentally, but we can guess. And if those people just stopped releasing music and say that's somebody that matters to you, and that's someone that's changed your life and has gotten you through some of your hardest moments, we want these people to have resources to go to when nothing else seems to be caring about them. And what's crazy and what I think about is how much these artists and these musicians and people in this industry give to you. And we're here with our hands out, taking. And it's all the art, it's all the things that get us through these things. But who are the people that are giving back to them? Who are the people that are filling their cup at the end of the day? Like I said, some of their music is what fills our cup up day in and day out and gets us through our day-to-day struggles. So efforts like this give back to them and help make sure they feel seen and cared for. And when I was reading the numbers of what the suicide rates were, or the idea of suicide was coming up over and over again, and it was alarming to me. I mean, any number is alarming to me, but just the fact that it was higher than I thought it would be, and you think these people's lives are so incredible, but again, it's lonely. It takes a toll. This lifestyle takes a toll. And to give back to you and give you the art that you listen to and that you divulge your life into every day, it takes a toll on them. And honestly, we just don't talk about it enough. I know over the last few years, especially since 2020, we've talked about mental health far more than we've ever talked about it before. But it's finally time that we start to shine more of a light on what it takes out of the artists and what they need to kind of be able to show up every day for you, even though they don't know you personally and you don't know them. These are ways that communities can give back to them to know that they are seen and they are heard. I know here in Nashville, we also have something called Porter's Call, and it's an incredible resource offering free confidential counseling for artists. And we need these things to continue. These are things that have to show up in the community for these people day in and day out so that they don't feel drained and question their own mental health day in and day out. And we want them to be able to show up on stage for us, go into the studio for us, and give us their best. And if they're not at their best, they can't give us their best. So these are things that I think need to be talked about more. You know, we talk about their hits, we talk about their numbers and their streaming, but we don't talk about the people behind it enough. And I hope that we get more music from artists that openly discuss these things, because obviously, it's not just this industry that deals with mental health issues. It's everywhere. So more things that pop up like this that openly speak about this, the better. And this industry takes a lot from people, but it doesn't always give support back. So I'm very happy to see that these things are showing up more and more for people in this industry to give back, because we take so much from them. Okay, so I feel like today might not have been about a ton of fun topics, but I think we covered a lot. And I think the takeaways are that AI is creating a lot of opportunities, but it's also opening up the door for a lot of fraud and theft. And I think it's only going to get easier. So I can't wait to see what bigger corporations, like I said, it's not going to be about us, the people, anymore, that are going to do anything about it. Because the more I've talked to the people just don't give a darn about what's happening. So we got to care less about, I think the music industry needs to care less about what the people are thinking about it and more about what maybe their bosses and their bosses' bosses are going to do about it. Because that's what's going to have to take place here. It's not going to be the audience that's going to care. I think technology is pushing the industry forward, but it's also creating new risks. And I mean, with every risk, can come reward, but with risks can come bad things. I'm trying to search for the right word, but that's not always a reward. So I think you have to play with technology with caution. And I think we've seen that no matter what we do, technology is going to keep growing rapidly. It's going to keep pushing forward, whether we like it or not, or whether people like it, some people don't. It's going to keep going. So I think just being more aware. I think at the end of the day, this is really helpful to listen to maybe, say, a show like mine or other people's who at least make you aware of what's happening. You don't have to do a dang thing about it. I don't want you to go march in the streets about it and make a sign, but I think it's okay to be aware of what's going on. Then you can make a decision for yourself on how you want to move forward with what music you're listening to, what streaming services you're using. I think that as long as you're well informed, I would rather be someone that knows what's going on. Whether I care about it or not, I still would rather know. At the same time, we are seeing, what I'm very excited about, what we talked about, is we're seeing real progress with women in country music. And I'm so excited to see more of it. And I think it's going to come down to, let's just hope and pray that the women today are still going to be releasing as good of music as they're doing now, which I have a feeling that they will be. I think with the women that are tossed in the hat right now and the ones I know that are coming up, I don't think we're going to be seeing any regression again with women. I think they're here to stay, and I'm pretty pumped about it. I also really just want to know what you guys are thinking about the AI in music. Because I know, like I said, I talk to people in and day out of what they care about. And the people I talk to personally say they don't care. But I would love to hear from you and to see what you guys care about. And I can't wait to see you guys next time on a new episode of What's Mine Is Yours. And I'm sure next time I will have a guest next to me. But these are fun. And I also would like you to, if you ever see one of these clips and you see the show, please let us know what you want me to talk about. I mean, there are so many topics that I might not see or things that you have a question about. I have plenty of people that I know in this business that I can turn to for advice and to educate me on topics that you might want to know more about. So thank you so much for tuning in today. This has been What's Mine Is Yours. See you next time.